Pancake! He goes. Geiger driving and finishing with the one-handed jam.
All right, welcome everyone to episode 3 of our EWC podcast. Today we're not going to be talking about EWC basketball too much. We got a special guest today. 2016 EWC Player of the Year and 2020 WIAC Player of the Year, former Keel Raider and Platteville Pioneer. Let's welcome in Carter Voelker. How are you doing today, Carter?
Wonderful. And yourself?
I'm doing good. So first, we'll just start off. What are you doing right now? Like, you graduated from Platteville last year. What have you been up to lately?
I actually am in my 5th year at Platteville. I'll graduate in May with a degree in mechanical engineering and mathematics. So I have not graduated yet, so I'm still here in Platteville. We're going to school.
Sounds good. I mean, what got you into basketball? Like, where did you start? Like, at what age? Like, what was it that made you fall in love with the sport?
I really don't know. I mean, my older brother obviously played it. My dad played it, and I've played it throughout all my youth. And I guess all my friends played sports. I just gravitated towards sports, and I love competing. And then I don't know how I ended up really just deciding on basketball, but I'm glad I did. And I mean, I still played all sports throughout, and then kind of, I guess, you pick whichever one you see yourself as best in, whatever you enjoy doing the most, and I guess pursue that to the fullest.
Yeah, for sure. You were probably in grade school at this point, but that 2010 state team with Brandon Grease and Joey Burris, did that inspire you at all? Like, oh, I really want to get good at basketball. Did those guys really put a vision in your head, like this is what I want to do, or I really like this? What did that team mean to your career?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would have been 6th or 7th grade. And I mean, even dating back, we had a tournament the day of the regional final at Manitowoc Lincoln against Valders. And I remember, I mean, our tournament ran late. We showed up to the game late, just a packed house. Grease has 45. Drew Benversi goes out with a rolled ankle. And I mean, just the atmosphere there, just the toughness of that team, the toughness of Brandon, I mean, obviously inspired me. He was a pretty big figure growing up, just being as competitive as he is, as good as he was, and just seeing how hard he worked, especially because I think that was also the time where he rolled his ankle, and Arntz was sending me pictures of his ankle, and it was quadruple the size of a normal ankle, and he's going into the playoffs doing that and still going out there scoring 45. And yeah, that team had a big impact on me.
Yeah, that was a crazy game at JFK in Manitowoc. Number 3 Keel knocking off number 1 seeded Valders that year. So you get into high school. Coach Jamie Arntz is your coach. What was he like, and what impact did he have on your basketball career?
Yeah, he had a tremendous impact. I mean, he always, I guess, saw more in me than I ever did myself. I mean, obviously, I wasn't physically mature or mentally mature when I came into school in 9th grade. I was 14 years old, 5'5", 5'6", 110 pounds, trying to play varsity, and also never having had to deal with any really adversity in basketball. Just basically going out there every time and being better than everybody, and everybody was kind of on an even playing field. And then when you go play against 18-year-olds, you really grow up pretty quickly, and I didn't really have what it took immediately, but he always believed in me, tried to make me believe in myself, and just not really let me settle.
Yeah, 100%. Jamie Arntz, great guy. I've known him for a long time. Highly respected around the area. So, you're going through your high school year, freshman year, 7.8 points a game, 15.1 your sophomore year. Junior year, you had 20 points per game. And then you switched conferences. You went from you still stayed in the EWC technically, but you went from the old conference, which had, Kewaskum, Waupun, Plymouth, and now it got changed to the new conference. You got teams like Chilton, Valders, Brilliant, Roncalli. What was that like? First of all, did you like it? Which conference did you like playing in better? And what was your favorite team from the old conference? And what was your favorite team from the new conference?
I mean, it was a pretty big change because I mean we lost Kewaskum and Plymouth, those big time enrollment schools, but then again we also like got Roncalli, Valders, Brilliant, who might have been just better athletically, despite like size differences. So people would think it would get easier, but I mean genuinely it didn't really decrease the I guess the skill level. And I guess that my favorite team to play in the old EWC was definitely always Waupun, just getting to compete against Domask, who was like head and shoulders better than everybody I'd ever played against in high school at that time, and just trying to match that. And then, I mean, in the new conference, I obviously probably Valders, because we've had I played them every single year over winter break. That was a pretty like I guess famous or memorable game for every season that happened annually over Christmas break, and just the familiarity with them. They're always really good, and they also beat us in the regional final junior year.
Yeah, right on. Mason Vosk, really good player, 26 points per game his senior year, finished his career with 1,716 career points. Outstanding player. Yeah, of course. Valders, they won the conference the first year you were in it. Sheboygan Falls is also up there. I believe you guys finished third. And it was competitive that first year, I remember. And yeah, right on. So now I'll shift gears to this. Like, when did you realize you could play at the next level? Like, was it in middle school? Was it like your freshman, sophomore year? Did you always know you wanted to play at the next level? Or like, when did it click? Like, okay, like I'm going to be playing after high school.
I guess that was kind of just Arndt's. Once again, like he had that expectation for me. I think it was sophomore year. He basically called me into his office before the season, or sophomore, junior year, and was like, "Do you like have interest in playing college basketball?" And I had interest in playing college athletics, and I mean, football was potentially doing that too, but also graduating high school at like 6 foot 170. I wasn't even physically mature enough to be playing football at that time either. So that kind of just led me to basketball, and I always had a long career of playing basketball. Was I personally thought I was better at in basketball than anything else, and yeah, I don't know. I'd probably that junior year because I mean I played AAU. I mean I was successful in AAU probably sophomore, junior year the most part, and we had a bunch of our guys getting like D2 offers. I think the rest of our starting five all committed to the same exact D2 school in AAU. So, just through that, and also like AAU coaches like Keel and Matt always just being like, "Hey, you can't play," and Ethan even being like, "Hey, you have to play in the WIAC. Like, I'm not letting you go to a school, NAC school or anything like that. Like, you need to be in the stiff competition of the WIAC."
Very good competition in the WIAC. Definitely right up there with any Division III school. Probably the best conference in Division III for basketball.
I would say
And
so.
yeah, I would agree too. So now you're looking at colleges. You chose Platteville. I looked. You said you chose it because it was the only school that had engineering. Was that the only reason, or did you have any other schools in mind that were looking at you, or you were looking at?
Well, I got recruited by most of the WIAC schools, and then Lakeland, Norbert's schools are like around the area. But I basically wanted to go be a civil engineer or a structural engineer, and at the time, Platteville was really it. Like Stout had technically like an engineering degree, but I also had zero interest in going to Stout, and then yeah, basically just reached out to Platteville and was like, "Hey, any chance I could play here?" Because they were about the only WEX school that hadn't reached out to me, being as it's primarily like Illinois, Iowa. Granted, we're getting off that in recent years, but I'm 15 minutes from Illinois, 15 minutes from Iowa, and yeah, it was basically just engineering. It was truly, it was coming down to did I want to go to Madison and just go to school, or did I want to go to Platteville and play? And thankfully a lot of people push me. They're like, you don't want to not play if you can.
Yeah. I think you made the right choice too, scoring 1,157 points in your collegiate career. So Jeff Gard, head coach of the Platteville Pioneers, like what how did you like him? What kind of coach was he? Was he like, was he really big on the little things? Was he like a hard-nosed coach, really, a guy who was going to scream in your face? What kind of coach was he, and how did you like him?
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan, and yeah, he's very, very stresses like I mean, very a point of emphasis for him is just believing in our process and being more process oriented than result oriented. Like what do we have to do? Like as long as we're doing the right things, like the result's going to speak for itself and come there. And I mean, hard nosed, not really. He was pretty. I mean, he was very adaptable. Like my freshman year, we were horrendous. And he had no problem like saying, looking himself in the mirror, being like, "What do we need to change? What do I need to change?" Being very open with the players, like, "Hey, like I mean, obviously, because we had a good amount of people with success in high school. Like, what do we need to do to win games? What do we need to do to get better?" And I mean, obviously, we turned things around pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'd say so. In your first year, you guys were 8-17. You played pretty good minutes. You had 4.8 points per game, but then you really stepped it up your sophomore year, starting in every game except one. You guys finished 24-5, and you finished with 10.3 points per game. And so let's go back to your freshman year. So you're looking around. All right, we're gonna check out the schedule. I know it was an exhibition game, but your first game is at the number 10 ranked Badgers at the Kohl Center with Bronson Koenig, Zach Showalter, Nigel Hayes, Ethan Happ. You played 4 minutes in that game, 2 for 2 from the line. But what was that experience like as your first collegiate game? Like, I couldn't imagine that.
Definitely pretty starstruck. I mean, I'd obviously been watching like Zach, Nigel, Bronson playing Final Fours in years prior and being absolutely just a fan. And then to go there and I got, I think probably 2 minutes in, I played like early first half minutes when it was still like a reasonable game. Obviously, they generally tend to blow everybody out by the end of it. But when I was in like I actually had Nigel guarding me one possession, Bronson guarding me one possession, and that was just, it was a little unbelievable. And it was a very cool thing to just get to say that I did to start my college career.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that game was pretty close. It was pretty much a 10-point game all through the first half. But yeah, this number 10 ranked Badgers who went on deep postseason or playoff tournament run. Yeah, they obviously just
Lost
ran
on
away with it.
The Chris Chioza shot to
Yeah,
go to the Elite Eight.
that's right versus Florida. And so Kyle Tuma, you mentioned before the big games with Valdez. I know it was a 2-year gap, and he's 2 years younger than you. He was on that. He was a key contributor his sophomore year to that Valdez squad. What was it like playing against him? Did you like really know of him before he came to Platteville? And like, what was it like playing with him? And how was he last year? And yeah, this is basically it. Like, what was it like playing against him and then with him?
Yeah, I mean, against him, I mean, it's tough to be a 4-year varsity player at Balders, and I mean, I think he kind of flip-flopped that freshman year, but I mean, obviously, when he was coming up, he was he's still 6'5", just a massive human, but a little thinner, and he was basically playing point guard for them in summer, like coming into his freshman year. And I mean, Arntz knew of him a little bit. I didn't know anything about him, but freshman year, I mean, he didn't play overly much, but that sophomore year playing against him, didn't do much at home when we beat him. But then I think in the second half at Valders, my senior year, he hit 5 threes in the second half to just basically bury us. And I mean, that's what he does. He just hits timely shots. Like playing with him has been like I mean, he's one of my best friends. I think he's an idiot. Like just in general, he's so dumb. But playing basketball with him, it is very evident how smart he is, and that he just acts that stupid. Like it is, he was one of my favorite people to play with because I trusted him more than anything. If I give him the ball, I know he's not going to be an idiot. I trust him to do what we need to do. And I screamed at him more than anybody, but I also think he is like he should probably be the player of the year in the WIAC by the time he's gone too. Like, he is that good.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. He definitely wasn't an idiot when he dropped 31 second half points against Prescott in the state
Yeah,
title game.
yeah, that too. The
Um,
the funny story about that is Jeff Guard, Greg Guard were watching that game together, and Guard had been hyping us all up on like Tuma had already committed. He'd been talking to Greg about him, like, and he goes out and he's foul trouble early in that game, and Greg like says to Jeff, he's like, number five's like the guy you recruited. He's like, I'm not too impressed, and then obviously had to eat his words in the second half.
Yeah, 2-1 with only 4 points in that first half, and he really brought him back, and we all know how that ended, so we don't have to keep talking about that.
I like to bring
So,
it up to him.
so when you got to Platteville, like when you were younger, like who were the guys that like were like the leaders? You said you weren't that successful your first year, but like who were the guys that like kind of mentored you, or like was there one guy or two guys? The only guy I really noticed on that roster, he was a little bit older than you, Jake Showalter. Like that was the only guy I really noticed. But like,
Hmm.
was there other guys who like mentored you, and like who stood out when you got there?
Yeah, I'd say freshman year definitely still Shoei. I mean, he ended up tearing his ACL early that year, but Shoei was absolutely very influential in me and basically just having confidence in me and forcing me to have confidence in myself. And he also was fun to play with because he's so damn smart, and I would like to consider myself decently smart playing basketball, and it is an absolute joy to play with people like Shoei that play their balls off and also are really intelligent while they do it. So he taught me a lot, and also Matt Ostrike, who was there, who like him and I are both like just I don't know if pardon my French, but we're both just dickheads to people. Like we demand perfection from people, and we're just kind of assholes about it. And it was a perfect fit to me, and he demanded the best out of me, forced me to turn into like forced me to be the best defender on our team that sophomore year, and forced me to do everything I could, and really just he was very influential in helping me just realize that you can control things defensively, offensively, and you can make an impact anyway, and you need to make an impact anyway.
You won the Player of the Year in high school at Kiel, and then you also won it last year at Platteville. Like, was there one that meant more to you than the other?
I mean, obviously, I'd probably just say the college one because I personally think that was like by far the toughest thing I've ever done. Going from, I guess, junior year, I played the entire basically conference and NCAA tournament season on like I had a broken foot, so I went into like right after that I got surgery obviously, and I didn't do anything all summer recovering from surgery. Like going into last fall, didn't really lift. Like prior to the season, I had like messed something up in my Achilles based on that like surgery. So I wasn't practicing, wasn't doing anything, didn't do anything the first 2 weeks, missed all our scrimmages and stuff, and then basically gutted it out every single day, just trying everything I could, like practicing once or twice a week, getting rehab once, twice a day, doing everything I could with our trainer Mike, who was an absolute godsend to allow me to even play, much less become the player of the year. So that I think that meant more to me just from the journey of it all, and also just being recognized as the best player. I technically the co-best player in the best conference in the country is the coolest thing I've ever done.
That's right. So I got one more question. This is kind of a fun question about your college career. Why did you wear the calf sleeve at the end? I think it looks really cool. Like, is that just why you wear it? Because it looks cool? Or what was the story behind that?
I wish. No, that was from the aforementioned foot problems. I ended up like having like a strained Achilles, and then based on like my Achilles problems, I had real tight calves. So I'd like get my calves massaged basically every every day before practice or after practice, and then basically that was actually a Brett Favre copper fit that Coach Guard gave me because he knew like the problems I was having. He's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "I heard that this is good for Achilles problems." I was like, "Okay." So he just gave me a copper fit he had at his house, and I started wearing it. And I mean, I liked it. It helped. It kept my calf loose and warm, and yeah, I guess it looked cool too.
Yeah, right on. And so your pregame playlist I saw in an interview you had in the newspaper back in high school. You were a big Mac Miller guy, and you also like Kanye West. Were those like two of your guys you still listen to up until last year before games, or is there a specific other artist or a specific song even that you always like listening to before games?
I have a pretty deep playlist, I guess, before games. It kind of depends. It's always really Kanye or what's it called, First Day Out by T Grizzly, or usually the ones that I try to end on to just get myself real jacked up before I put the headphones away and get ready to play. So I'd definitely say some My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Kanye, or just that one singular song by T Grizzly.
Oh yeah, straight bangers on Kanye West's best album. Big Kanye guy
Oh yeah.
myself, and T Grizzly. I mean, what can you say? First day out. So what was it like? Sorry, I'm gonna go back to your freshman, or sorry, not your freshman year, your high school career. Like, it was the first time on the Madison court. You're doing that 3-point competition. How was it like different than playing a game? I saw that interview too. You were like, you was a little nervous. Like, was it like weird to do? Because like, it's not really natural motion or natural thing to do. Like, what was that all about?
I mean that was interesting because I don't know, I think it started probably 8:30 or 9. Like everybody gets there. I think we all got a half hour like on the court just to warm up, and then there are 15, or what would that be, two, or there are 10 guys, like yeah, 10 or 15 guys, however many guys
I
are
think
in it.
there was two from each division, so yeah, 10
Okay,
guys.
10, and yeah, basically we drew out of a hat to like order. So we go shoot for 20, 30 minutes, like get all warm, and then I think I picked like number 8 or 9. So I got to sit there through the 30, 35-minute wait of everybody else going and shooting, and you get pretty cold. And that kind of sucked, but I mean it was very cool to just be on the court at the Kohl Center.
Yeah, for sure. So all right, so I got two final questions for you. What was your favorite I'm gonna go through a favorite moment in game of your basketball career. No, we'll just kind of intertwine one and so your favorite game or moment from high school and college. So what was your favorite game in high school or favorite moment, or what was your favorite moment in college?
That is tough. Favorite moment in high school, I'd maybe beating Plymouth at Plymouth. That would have been junior year. We hadn't beat Plymouth, and we'd gotten rolled by Plymouth actually the past 2 years of playing them in conference. They had been winning the conference, and then we went to their place, probably fourth, fifth game of the year, and beat them by 10, 15 in Plymouth, which was something that just didn't absolutely happen and gave us some confidence. It was an absolute blast, and yeah, I'd say that was probably favorite moment or game from high school combined, both of those.
All right,
And
do you
then
got sorry,
college
college?
wise,
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
college wise, well, favorite moment would definitely be River Falls at at River Falls my junior year, is we are not playing well at all. I mean, obviously that's a 5.5 hour bus trip. It is brutal. Two of our like probably our sixth, seventh, eighth man got suspended for the first half, so we're already just struggling, and hit the 35-foot on the off the dribble game winner, and just that was an absolute blast. Yeah. But then the favorite, like I guess, game still got to be Nebraska Wesleyan, even though we lost. Hosting NCAA tournament games in the city of Platteville is the coolest thing I've ever been a part of, because this town just absolutely loves college basketball. Like that entire sophomore year, probably the last 6 or 7 games at home were all sold out, 15, 1,600 people screaming on their feet the entire time. And that was just unbelievable. And getting to host the NCAA tournament and lose to the eventual national championship champions on a buzzer beater was still pretty cool.
Definitely. All right, I want to bring up one last game. I saw you played 47 minutes in this game. I believe it was double overtime. I'm right now currently enrolled at Oshkosh. Tell me about. Do you remember anything from that game when you played 47 minutes? I believe
In
you guys
triple
won
overtime?
triple overtime. Sorry.
Yep.
Tell me about that game. What did that?
Last year, that game was absolutely bonkers, because I mean we had went to Oshkosh was obviously the second best team in the conference, as they are most of the time, and we went up to Oshkosh down 10 at half, came back and beat them by like 8. So obviously they were coming in here unhappy and pissed off, and we actually got up I think 13 or 14 at half against them. But the co-player of the year, favorite, I guess the other player of the year, he was out for probably 16, 17 minutes of that first half with foul trouble, and he came in the second half and just went absolutely bonkers. And then they ended up taking the lead on us with probably up by 5 with like 2 or 3 minutes left. Like Drew got an and one. we tied it up, and then that overtime period was absolutely insane too, because I think we scored 6 straight. They battled back with an and one or something, and then Fravert hit the toughest shot ever from the deep left corner to send it to double overtime. And then I think he turned it over on the last possession of double overtime, and then triple overtime. I think Flynn fouled out or something, and Peterson fouled out, who guards me, and things kind of settled down, and we escaped out of there. And also Q had about 32, so that always helps. But yeah, that was absolutely nuts. And that basically, I mean, he obviously didn't decide the conference, but beating the number 2 team or sweeping the number 2 team basically is pretty well that you're going to win the conference at that point.
So I just thought of one more question. I'm sorry, I've added like 3 questions here.
Oh, that's fine.
But I had Connor on last night. He said you've seen a couple. How many games of EWC have you watched this year? Like, I couldn't believe it's that many. But like, have you seen it
Probably,
at all?
I guess I've watched a decent amount of Kiel games. So
Yeah.
probably, yeah, I'd say probably like 5 to 10.
So you're like, what? Okay, yeah, that's perfect. Is there any like Travis Coleman and Lepisto and Orange obviously having Munz, you can throw him in there too, obviously having really good years. Like, what have you seen from Kiel's opponents and Kiel's players? Like, who from the conference has like caught your eye from the couple games you've seen?
Well, I actually, most of them have been online, and that's a lot different. I guess I actually just recently called the Chilton game with Jabin Versi, and Lucas Hallbach is very, very impressive. But definitely the best player I've seen is Lorenz from Brilliant. He was absolutely unreal. I went to the Friday night game at Kiel, and he just basically gets to his spot at 12 feet whenever he wants and just hits a pull-up jumper. And he made one of the most athletic blocks I've ever seen in my life on going up against Travis, who is extremely bouncy. And yeah, he is also having a great year. But yeah, it makes me very happy to just see Kiel successful again. Obviously, Connor's been there the past couple of years, and they've been struggling, but yeah, especially through all the adversity and stuff, to be 18-2 at this point, and hoping to make a deep run in the playoffs here. It's definitely an absolute blast to see.
Oh yeah, it's a blast to watch. It's a blast to cover the conference. Yeah, Player of the Year 2016 in high school and Player of the Year WIAC. Thanks for coming in, Carter.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
See ya.